How are you doing, lad?
I'm all right. I'm just looking in the background. You've got AJ.
Yeah, I got these about 5 years ago when I first started, and we're still talking about that fight now, aren't we? But the old billboard's gone now. There's a new one on order with new sponsors and that. But we just took these up for the time being. So
They look good, mate.
they're just one little pull-up ones, aren't they?
Yeah, really nice.
So that's what I use them. Better than a blank old wall, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
How have you been? All right.
Everything's good. Just take a little bit of time off work. I'll make it up later. Looking forward to the weekend, mate. As always.
Good. I don't really know where to start, Julian. Some strange things have been happening the last few weeks. But I'll tell you what I will start on, and I think we have to mention this. That Callum and whatever boxing Misfits thing that's on. Have you seen it? It's on DAZN, isn't it?
I catch, as you know, I catch some of this stuff, and some of it I just tend to I see the clickbait and the headline, and I think life's too short to be watching strange people. There's enough strange people in boxing without, indulging myself in Callum and things like that, mate.
Well, that show, I mean, what is it? Is it like people who are mixed sports kind of thing? Because there's loads of fights on it. It looks like a bit of a dressed up white collar, doesn't it?
I just saw the poster and I shook my head, and I talk about this all the time. The lines are blurred with the casuals and the consumers of boxing, because people are looking at elite boxing and then they're watching this stuff, and they can't really decipher between the two. And if DAZN and if these guys are filling out their programs by putting on, just as you've said, it's white collar, it's celebrity white collar boxing, then it's a sad indictment on sport, and they're contributing to creating really what I think is just crass television. But as you keep saying, at some point somebody's going to get hurt. An untrained fighter is going to get seriously hurt, and people are going to have a look at themselves.
I always look at things like this and I think, well, we've got two privately educated kids, privileged kids, aren't we? Callum and Eddie Hearn's going to be playing his part at DAZN. So they're obviously working together, which they have done years. Maybe they don't like each other, but hey ho. But if they're going to put shows on to earn money like that, and that's standard, and is this scraping the barrel now? Because everything I've been saying is now, so all chickens are coming home to roost, aren't they? Hey.
People will do anything for money and for fame. Those two things drive people's ego, don't they? The better you dress, the better you look, the bigger car you've got, the bigger house you've got. It's just like an ego. It's just like inflating their ego all the time. And those two guys have got massive egos. Like I think I said on one of your live chats the other night, it was good actually. It was last night at the GAD. And these guys, it's funny, right? I know I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent, but they always say things like, I'm friends with fighters, I love boxers. How come these guys are only friends with famous boxers, world champion boxers, and big celebrity boxers? Does Eddie Hearn have in his phone book, does he have these Estonian journeymen that we keep shipping over to get beat up on his shows time and time again? Are they his friends? Are they in his phone book? Are they in his list of friends? So they just surround themselves with famous people and famous celebrities because they think it makes themselves look great. And they think it's all about social media presence. It's all about their perception of themselves. And I just think it's the same thing. So what Eddie Hearn and Sauerland should have really done is they should have spent some time in gyms. I know Eddie will say that he did spend time in gyms and he was sparring as a kid. But what happens is, is the people lose touch with reality, don't they?
Yeah.
And they've completely lost touch with reality through various means. And it's just bizarre. And, where do you start with these guys? They're bizarre. They don't really give us the fights that they want. They keep saying we're giving you big fights, we're giving you all these huge fights, and we'll talk about the heavyweights at some point, no doubt. But they're not giving us the fights that we want. They're just giving us names and putting them together. But those aren't truly the fights that we want. And now they're serving up. And I think the worry what you're talking about is this bill. And I don't know if it's celebrity boxing or kickboxing. I've got no idea what it is because I won't be watching it. I cancelled the zone.
There's an ex-MMA guy on there, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I just saw, let me get this right. It was the headline. Is it Hassim Rahman Jr., who's a pale imitation of his dad, and his dad was a kind of not the greatest heavyweight. He just had a great night against Lennox. So you've got Hassim Rahman Jr. and he's fighting Vito Belforte. Now Vito Belforte, when I was watching the UFC in the late 90s, he was like a name then. He was knocking out the Tank Abbotts of this world. He had great hands. He must be a bloody old man now. He must be walking around with a Zimmer frame. So is this what we're doing? We're getting very, very kind of lower top 50 in the world boxers like Hassim Rahman Jr. fighting old MMA fighters. Is this entertainment? Is this really entertainment?
No, is it really?
It's shit, isn't it?
It's a recipe for disaster, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's voyeuristic television, isn't it? You know, with the psychology of it's always interesting for me. But, you know, when I've said this before on your show, maybe a couple of years ago, but Big Brother and all this type of reality TV show, and I don't watch this Towie and Essex stuff, whatever it is. This kind of thing proves to me that people will watch anything. It's the kind of motorway effect, isn't it? When you're driving past them, there's a pile up, and you can't help but look at the crash, and you see all these not very nice scenes, and it's awful. That people will watch absolutely anything. I mean, you only have to look at some YouTube channels, some bizarre YouTube channels and fetishes and all this kind of stuff. People will watch and will do anything. And that's what we've got now with boxing. People are not massively tuned into what's quality and what's not quality. The hardcores are, those guys with eyes for boxing are, but generally, as long as you're feeding them this stuff, people will watch absolutely anything. And I think it was the Word. Remember the Word on channel 4?
With Danny Bear.
Yeah. And they had a segment called, and I have got off on one and I'll shut up in a second. They had a segment, Danny Bear, she was gorgeous. And they had a segment called People Will Do Anything to Get on TV. So this was before social media and before all this kind of stuff. People will do anything to get on TV. And they had people just doing, I won't even tell you what they're doing. You remember, it was gross. Random Joe Publics, one in the 15 minutes of fame, doing really gross acts just to get on TV.
Like Eurotrash, you remember that?
Yeah, so what does that mean, right? If people will do anything to get on TV, then the flip side of that is people watching it will watch anything. They'll be entertained by anything. So generally people, I don't know if it's the stress of life, the pressures of life, that we all want a bit of light relief, but, you know, standards have kind of dropped really. And that's why now, how much true crafting do we have in filmmaking and drama making and that type of thing? I'm sure there's still good things out there, but generally we're watching people bake cakes and go to live in each other's houses, and people, you know, RuPaul's drag queen and all this kind of, this is what we're watching now, and this is what people watch. So Eddie Hearn will get away and Sauerland will get away with serving up the lowest common denominator of television, because we've all dumbed down and we all need to give our heads a shake. And, you know, thankfully there are still people who will watch quality television and quality sporting events, but I think we're a minority now. And, you know, I don't know what we're going to be watching in 20 years' time, but it's voyeurism, mate. It's voyeurism. And this show is voyeurism until someone gets hurt, and then they all walk away from it and say, well, yeah, but they passed the medical and we didn't realize there's anything wrong with them. People getting hit in the face, people getting hit in the head. They're not trained for it. They haven't lived this all their life, and someone's going to get killed and someone is going to have blood on their hands, but do they even care?
Do you think that Eddie might be on back foot here with us now and having to put this up as one of his slots, you know, for years. He's really on back foot here. I think so, on him personally. Well,
He
no,
has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be because he's got so many gaps now, hasn't he? Big fights falling through, the fights that they're delivering, certainly in the UK, that they're not great, are they? You know, we've just recently seen the Lee Wood and the Lara pull out. That was a decent fight. And it's, you know, no disrespect to anybody else on that bill, but the threadbare offerings for the UK. So DAZN's a big machine in the US, but in the UK now, how many good shows have we had from DAZN? I'm talking competitive main events that have a meaningful impact on the world level. How many good shows have we had on DAZN this year?
Well, there's going to be Canelo, isn't there? And Triple G. But Triple G's pay-per-view as well as subscription, and as well as he's 41 next birthday, isn't he, Golovkin?
Yeah.
And he's fighting a drug cheat. That's what we're up against now.
No, that is absolutely what we're up against. And Canelo Alvarez failed a drug test, and his reward for that was a $360 million deal, the richest deal in sporting history, for being a drug cheat. So this is what I'm saying. People say he's going on again about values, and he's going to start talking about the 70s and 80s in a minute. But ultimately, does it not matter to people that this guy actually should have been banned for life? He should have been thrown out of boxing. He was a proven drugs cheat. And for somebody who's probably one of the 2 or 3 richest fighters in boxing, he's probably the richest fighter in boxing right now. If I was innocent, wouldn't you get yourself the best set of lawyers and contest that ban? He never once contested the ban. He took it, he paid the fine, he sat out for 12 months, and he came back a bigger star than ever. So this, which is what you've just said, this is where we're at, Russell.
Yeah. He's he got a 6-month ban, but he only fights twice a year anyway, didn't he? So I didn't really do anything to him, did they, really?
Yeah. This is the Mexican horse meat that he'd have had to have eaten about 30 horses a week or something to get that amount of Glenbuterol in his system. So who do they think we are stupid? You know, it's just that people are getting caught now. That's the difference, is the random one gets caught. I will just point one thing out, because I watched the Dripping Tap. He's a great guy. I love watching his videos, but I'll never call anybody out or make a statement about somebody being on steroids without there being some kind of proof around that. But I would like to point out one thing, and this is going to get people's blood boiling. And this is not an accusation, this is just a statement. There was a story that Thomas Hauser ran about 5 or 6 years ago. We all know the one about Floyd Mayweather allegedly failing 2 drugs tests. You know, we all know about the water injections, the saline drips, etc. But he failed 2 drugs tests. Now, that Thomas Hauser is one of the most respected writers in boxing. He's covered Ali's biography, the whole thing. And that was interesting, but it just could have been one of the biggest stories of our time.
It was shut down though, wasn't it?
Shut down very, very quickly. But what I know is that Thomas Hauser is still writing. He wasn't banned. He wasn't taken to court. He ran the story. And what you've just said, it was shut down, because I'm not suggesting that Floyd Mayweather, by the way, was a drugs cheat. I'd be really disappointed if that was the case.
I would.
I'd be really disappointed. He's certainly the best fighter I've seen since Ray Leonard. He's the best fighter I've seen since the 80s. He's a phenomenal fighter. But if you look at boxing as a sport, if our biggest name in the last 40 years actually was a drugs cheat, what would that do for sport? I mean, although the flip side, we've got up with Canelo Alvarez pushed off.
Do you mean Anthony Joshua? Yeah, well, the therapeutic exemption certificates have been handed out like confetti, haven't they? This is the thing,
is like, how bold are people getting now when they have doctors, you know, very, very senior doctors working for them, you know, in terms of testosterone replacement schemes. They're known for these guys. If you look at Victor Conte over the years, now Victor Conte was an absolute drugs cheat, turned rat.
He ratted Marion Jones out, didn't he?
Absolutely.
The sprinter, yeah.
He was the one supplying, and then
he ratted them.
Then he ratted them all out, and then he comes across as this clean person.
He's government But I've worked for government now, don't I? Or some, or you.
So you only have to look at the names that Victor Conte was working with.
Andre Ward, he worked with Andre Ward.
But you can't say it, mate,
no, they were saying Andre Ward's a drug cheat. However, I mean, God forbid, but it's like me. If I start knocking around with, I don't know, heavy duty drug dealing guys, and one of my family sees it and word gets back to my mum and dad, they're going to say 2 and 2 is 4. Russell, what are you doing? I said, well, what are you on about? I thought you were doing this YouTube thing and messing with bits of cars or something. Well, I am. Well, what you sat drinking with these people for? And it's so and so for. Well, I've known them years. Well, I thought you were going to stay away from that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Well, Andre Ward, he's guilty by association, but we're not saying that he's took out, are we?
No, we're not saying anybody's taken anything. What we're doing is we're having a discussion that won't be had on a mainstream sporting channel. That's all we're doing. We're asking the questions. We're asking why a very, very established, celebrated writer in Thomas Hauser ran a story about Floyd Mayweather allegedly failing drugs tests, and this was not at least discussed. It wasn't discussed on a platform, and it wasn't contested by anybody. We're asking why Canelo Alvarez never appealed his conviction for drugs. We're asking why other fighters' B samples have gone missing. We're asking why we have 3 or 4 of the top heavyweights in the world who have at some point, so this is not allegedly, have at some point failed drugs tests for banned substances. We're asking why this is just not at least discussed. And because it's not discussed because there's way too much money in it to do irreparable damage to boxing if people took a real hard line. So all we're doing is asking the questions. You and I have never once, and this is your show, it's a brilliant show, we've never once turned around and named somebody and accused anybody of taking a banned substance. What we're saying is, why are people not at least discussing this? Why is there not a conversation around some of the biggest stars in boxing who have failed drugs tests? They've never appealed them, they've served the bans, and are celebrated athletes today. Why is no one at least having that conversation? And it's, you can draw your own conclusions, can't you?
The Dylan White one leaves a bad taste in my mouth because Thomas Hauser, if he hadn't said anything, Eddie Hearn wasn't going to tell us what it.
Well, this is the thing, is it? They'll never volunteer this kind of information. And you know, you can watch this discussion that we're having now, watch it back as many times as you like. I keep repeating this. We're just asking the questions, but why are promoters continually prepared to work with people who have failed drugs tests? You know, Dillian White served a 2-year ban, didn't he? And this was somebody who's been massively celebrated. He's had numerous pay-per-views. So all I'm saying is, you are, and this is.
That's 6, and he's had 6 pay-per-view, hasn't he?
Yeah, so this is a statement of fact. He served a 2-year ban for taking a banned substance. It's a statement of fact. Kid Galahad did exactly the same. Okay, these are statements of facts.
He got his ban reduced to 18 months.
Yeah, he got his ban reduced, and you know, I guess it depends on the quantities and how it was ingested and the likelihood that it was unknowingly, you know, ingested into your body. There are things such as that, but you know, there are other fighters like
Liam Cameron, 4 year.
Where's the balance there? Liam
one line of coke in fight week, allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly a recreational drug, and he got 4 years. But Liam Cameron's not going to fill out Wembley, is he?
No.
And it's just one of those things, isn't it? It's the things that people won't talk about and people won't have discussion. And this is why I don't respect any longer the British Boxing Board of Control. They've done some great things in terms of safety over the last 30 years. And certainly when you see some of the other European regulating bodies, their safety levels are nowhere near the British Boxing Board of Control. But ultimately, that one of the biggest, you know, elephants in the room that we have right now is drugs, is performance-enhancing drugs in boxing. And you have to, is it because it's got too expensive to have this testing at all down the levels, to filter it down the levels? Or is it because, do you know what, if we did a real large independent review and tested every single athlete right now in the top 20 in the world, what would we find? Would we find a sport that's generally clean, or would we actually find that there's a high number of our biggest stars and of the elite athletes who are on performance-enhancing drugs, and we'd no longer have a sport? So once again, you just draw your own conclusions from what I'm saying. I'm not making any accusations. I'm saying we've got big names out there who are proven drugs cheats, and anybody who doesn't like the word cheat, you're a cheat. If you're taking enhancing, performance enhancing, the clues in the title, you're a cheat.
PEDs.
Yeah, performance enhancing, you are a cheat. And that's where we're at right now. So I know we've gone on to a completely different subject. That's why I always like chatting to you, it's organic, but nobody wants to talk about it, do they? No one wants to have this discussion. And the boxing.
Where's this B sample? Where's this B sample? We're into 4th year now, aren't we? Since that fight. Rivers fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's not making anybody, it doesn't mean you're a hater, it doesn't mean you hate boxing.
We're just stating facts.
Anything like that, it just means, get George Kelsey. George, it just means you're not hating anybody. You listen, as I said before, yeah, we're boxing fans, but we're not just boxing fans, we're boxing subscribers, famous Sky Sports and all that kind of stuff. I have a right to know when a percentage of my subscription is going into a fighter's purse. I have a right to know if that fighter's clean or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the same.
Yeah. All right then. Eubank Sr. writing scripts. A couple of people have told me that we were never going to pull out anyway, son, and that the father was just creating a bit of controversy, and that he'll still be in the corner on the night. So where are we going with this here? It's like Dallas, isn't it, with boxing gloves, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, my view, you know, when we talked about this before, I think it's highly dangerous. I think making 157 is dangerous, but I think the limited rehydration clause is even more dangerous than making the weight. Making the weight will be hell, it'll be existing on fumes. But in terms of Eubank Sr., don't sign for the fight then, or step away from it right at the beginning. You don't know the rules of engagement, and then suddenly halfway through, or when we're only a few weeks away, start stamping your feet and saying, do you know what, I'm really worried about my son's health and I don't want him to do this and I forbid this fight. Either step away from it right from the beginning or go along with it. And now, as he's saying, he's going to be in the corner. It's all theatre. It's all smoke screens.
KFC, did you see me eating KFC? Oh, they're trying to kid. Do they think we're lollipops or something?
Yeah, because boxers eat KFCs, don't they, when they're having to get down to a weight they haven't been at for since they're 18 years old.
How desperado and cringe is that?
It's pathetic, and you know what he'll be doing? He'll get down to about 156.8 at the pre-weighing before he goes onto the stage, and he'll be there with his bottle and he'll have a little swig and he'll put his bottle to one side and he'll get on the scales and he'll show us how shredded he is. And they're just kidding us. But ultimately, the performance in the ring will be all that matters, won't it? And we shall see if this dehydration's hurt him or not. I've never said for 1 minute there will be an injury. Nobody wants that. I've never said it will hurt him. What I'm saying is there's a real risk. There's a real risk it will.
I'm a bit disappointed that it's all gone a bit gimmicky and that using the sad passing of his son in with this conversation, and you know, and Michael Watson, McClellan, bringing all that in to make out that this is a dangerous, serious fight and all this, and just to get people buying pay-per-view. It's greedy, and I think they've shown the true colours. And do you know what? If I had any respect for them Eubanks, gone now, mate. It's gone. And I thought he was best of all gimmick fighters, Eubank. You know, all sons, all these gimmicks. Yeah. I've gone off him now, and I hope Conor Benn smashes him to pieces now. I hope he smashes him to bits. I'm
totally indifferent in terms of who wins. First of all, I hope that there is no injuries on either side. But what I hope is that we see a good fight without any controversy, without any injuries, but just we see a good fight and there's no.
We don't have to do it again because of some.
Yeah, I don't want to do it 3 times because. Terry O'Connor or whoever's put a scorecard in what's 8 points wider than everybody else's.
Michael Alexander, he's the man the spotlight's on now.
I don't want to see that. Give us a fair result. And I don't want to see Conor Benn afterwards, if he gets tanked out, to say, oh, well, I was fighting a bigger guy and I took a gamble, I'm a warrior. And I don't want to see Eubank, if he gets beat, blaming the weight. You know the terms and conditions, you crack on. If Eubank's too big for you, fight welterweights. If you can't make 157, Chris, fight middleweights. You both signed for it now. Crack on with it. And hopefully we get a good competitive fight. But you just know it's that thing, isn't it? There's always something. There's something hanging around it that's going to be...
some script going to be written between all of the characters, the judges, the refs, the fighters, the trainers, the managers, the promoters. There'll be summer, drug testing, you name it. The script is being wrote.
And what we won't see is what the dads produced. Certainly the first fight, I was there at the NEC.
They went at it like two alley cats, didn't they?
I was a Benn fan at the time. I was 20. I was a student. Me and my mates went, and it was brilliant. And I don't think we'll see anyone.
Benn dropped him, didn't he? In 8th, didn't he?
It was an awkward one. It was one of those where he put him over.
Equilibrium, he caught him on top of it, didn't he?
It was one of them, and Eubank really did a number on him, didn't he? He pummeled him. I think he hurt Benn quite early on from memory. Met a load of celebrities that night. It was a great night, but I just want that kind of fight. I want us to have a good, intense fight with a clear outcome. But who knows? But why aren't these guys fighting for world titles? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, and so do I. Because they'll get beat. He'll get beat at middleweight against the top middleweights. The other ones nowhere near Spencer and Crawford. Fury versus Big Meech. It's a 60-40 split. It looks like it's a done deal and all that. I can't get behind it until I see him ring me, because I've heard that much dribble. I mean, look, these were put up 5 years ago. Maybe 2000,
Yep.
4 years ago, nearly 4 years. And we were talking about it way before then. Do you know what I mean?
This is what happens, mate, isn't it? You get, not only do you get disillusions with the fights that we want to see being made, you get to the stage that you get desensitized to the bollocks that you see and you hear all the time, and you just think. So if you look at Tyson Fury, and I like Tyson Fury, I think he's fab, but I mean, I'll get the dates wrong, but so 6-7 weeks ago he was retired. Then he wanted to fight Anthony Joshua for free, for the British public. Then he was retired, and then he was fighting Usyk, and now he's fighting AJ. And it's like, what are you doing? What do you want to be when you grow up? What are you doing? You know, what's next for you? What's legacy defining? By the way, I like the fight because I think the most important thing for Fury, as I said this before, I don't care who he fights. I just want to see him out there regular and dominant, like all the great champions.
Like Larry Holmes.
Yeah, I want to see him dominant. But what we're not getting, if you think about this, right? Anybody who's listened to me, they'd say, we've had Joshua against Usyk twice. We've had this, we've had that. What we're not getting in the heavyweight division is the real premier fights we want. So 5 years ago, we wanted Joshua and Wilder. That was the fight that we all wanted.
Yeah.
We didn't get it. And then we wanted Fury and Joshua when they were both unbeaten. We didn't get it. Well, now we want Fury and Usyk, and we're not getting it.
Yeah.
So we're getting big fights several times, but we're not getting the fights
we want.
That we want. And just let me 2 minutes. Let me just go through some data with you. Anybody who says I'm stuck in the past, and all we hear is Adam Smith and everybody else saying the heavyweight division has never been better.
Ready for liftoff, Johnny!
It's red hot, right? So what we do is, you know, like I said, people think you're a hater, you're this, you're not. You're not. Everything's either based on informed opinion or data. So I'm going to give you a little bit of data now. So first of all, if you look at the top 3 heavyweights in 1970 to 1974, I'm going to look at a 4-year window, right? We had Ali, Fraser, and George Foreman, generally considered the top 3 heavyweights of that era. And then if you look at today, and you look at, I'm going to leave Usyk out because he was cruiserweight, but I can include him if I need to. Now we've got AJ, we've got Fury, and we've got Wilder who's coming back, right? So those are the three of the big names of the past 4 years. Let's put it like that, because I know Usyk's probably the second best heavyweight. Right. Across those 4-year window, I just had a scan this morning. Ali, Fraser and Foreman, as well as fighting each other, and these heavyweights today haven't all fought each other, as we know. They went 50-5. They had 55 fights, the three of them, across a 4-year window. Look at that against Fury, Wilder and AJ. They've had 17 fights across the 4-year window. Sorry, so we've gone 50-5 and 12-5-2, 17 fights. So
12-5-2, that's 19.
Yeah, sorry, 19 fights, and the others went 50-5.
So it's more than 3 times more fights, isn't it?
So Muhammad Ali had almost the same amount of fights in 4 years what those 3 guys have had combined.
Yeah.
How can you argue that? So what we've basically got, right? So if we look at Deontay Wilder, everyone's saying Wilder's coming back, he's going to cause destruction, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. Deontay Wilder, in 2 months' time, is 37-year-old. Fact. Deontay Wilder has not won a fight in 3 years. Fact. So that's one heavyweight out of the way. Yeah. Tyson Fury has had 8 fights in 7 years. Now that's hardly prolific, is it? 8 fights since 2015. He's had 8 fights. I mean, what can you say about that? Anthony Joshua in the past 4 years has gone 3-3. Now we keep getting told Fury's the greatest of all time. Wilder's the biggest puncher of all time. Joshua, had he beat Usyk a couple of weeks ago, would have been one of the greatest of all time, according to Eddie Hearn. Who's fooling who? Am I using rose-tinted glasses, or are those statements of facts? You can't compare. You can't compare guys who fought each other periodically against 3 guys who haven't delivered the big fights I've just mentioned that we want to see.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. Number 4 out of 10. White, no opponent. Dylan White's brother, or whoever he is, Wesley Snipes, whoever they call him. Wesley's come out from, because he's not that busy today saving people on airplanes. But Big Wesley's come out and he said that they were going to name Dylan White's opponent this week. That's what he said last week on social media. Well, Friday, there's no opponent. Next week it'll be, and then next week, and it just keeps getting away and away and away and away from you. It's the same old repeated rubbish.
It's that line, isn't it? You've got nothing to say and no one's listening anyway. And that's how I treat it with them. Give me a date, tell me who you're fighting. If it's a good fight, Dillian, I'll watch it. You're a good fighter, I'll watch it. But I don't want to hear about who wants to fight who might be fighting who's calling out who. It's just rubbish, isn't it? You just didn't get that, did you? I mean, listen, social media might be relatively massive the last 10 to 15 years, but we've always had the media, we've always had newspapers and television. And I don't recall Rocky Marciano and Joe Louis and Ezzard Charles and Joe Walcott calling each other out and all this nonsense. And at least when Ali went to Sonny Liston's home and he started calling him out, at least he fought him, didn't he? They don't call each other, they didn't call each other out and then disappear off the face of the earth. Everybody calls each other out, but nobody actually steps up, do they? And very, very few fights get made. And Dillian White, statement of fact, I like to deal with facts. Good fighter, decent fighter, but he's been knocked out cold in 2 of his last 3 fights. Well, actually, he got up against Fury, but he's been knocked out in 2 of his last 3 fights. Statement of fact. So these numbers that I'm giving you, this performance, I mean, Fury's dominant, but these statistics I'm giving you, 3-3 Joshua, no wins in 3 years for Wilder, Dillian White 1-2 in his last 3 fights, 2 of them by KO. Yeah. These are not great fighters, are they? These are not statistics of elite, supreme fighters. There's only Fury and Usyk who can claim to be anywhere near elite and supreme right now, and those guys fight once a flood. So that's where we're at.
Do you want to link to? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.